If you are choosing the second one as your answer, then you are completely wrong. Look at the question carefully. The question is saying that two numbers are randomly selected, one from each set. So it is not so that you have total 9 numbers and you are selecting any two of them. 9C2 means what? You can have any two of them, means you can have either these two or one from each, all those cases. But what is the condition imposed? That I need one from each set. So I do not read the cases like this one. So 9C2 is not your sample space. What is sample space? If you want to write in the terms of combination, then you will say that okay, one number should be there from the set A. That means you can say from 4 numbers you are selecting one, and the other should be from these 5 numbers. So from 5 numbers you are selecting one, which is again coming out to be 4 into 5. So 4 into 5 is the correct one. Correctly split because they are separately picked. Now you must have understood the concept of combination. Combination means you can take any two of them from 9 digits. But it is not so here. We are specified that one should come from here and the other should come from here. Now for the sum to be 16. What are your favorable cases? For the sum to be 16, the favorable cases can be such that you are taking 2 from this set and 14 from the B set, or it can be 3 from the first set and 13 from the second set. Similarly, 4 and 12, and lastly 5 and 11. These are your favorable cases. That means number of favorable cases are 4 and your answer is 1 by 5.2. Okay, 0.2 is the answer. So the chance of a student passing an exam is 20%. Very easy. First statement is saying that probability of passing the exam is 20%. In numeric forms, I can write it 0.2. Okay, no doubt in that. The chance of a student passing the exam and getting above 90% in it is 5%. Now that word "and" is very important here, that the chance of a student passing the exam, that is one of the event, passing the exam, and getting above 90% is the another event. So basically "and" means you need the probability of passing, and means intersection 90%. You must be able to decipher this from this question, that this is saying passing the exam and 90% is nothing but intersection. It is given as 5%, that is 0.05. Yes. Now given that the student passes the exam, the probability that the student gets above 90%. Now they are asking you, or they have given to you, that you know that the student has passed, then what is the probability that he gets above 90%? From this word given, that you should be able to understand that what is given to you, what probability is given to you. So you will say that it is conditional probability that is given, and the condition imposed is that he is already passing the exam. Then what is the probability of getting 90%? Very easy question. Okay, now you must be able to find out the answer. We know that conditional probability is given by intersection with the two events, and in denominator whatever condition is imposed, that becomes your sample space. So sample space. So it is 0.05 by 0.2. Yes, and this is equal to 1 by 4. Any doubt in this question? Only thing, remember that wherever "and" is given, "and" means if we are talking about and between two events, and between two events means intersection, and given that implies that you are given some condition, that means they should use conditional probability. If S be a simple sample space and two mutually exclusive events A and B are such that A union B is S, and one condition is given to you that A and B are mutually exclusive. What do you mean by that? As soon as you see this mutually exclusive, you must be able to see that their intersections probability will be equal to 0. Mutually exclusive. Yes. And A union B is S. That means what will be the probability of A union B? It will be 1. What kind of events are such where this probability is 1? Then you will say that A and B are exhaustive. So here the case is such that A and B are mutually exclusive also and exhaustive also. Yes. Now what is required? Required is the maximum value of PA into PB. So first of all, if I know that their union is 1 and intersection is 0, using the law of addition, if I use, what will I get? That A union B is PA plus PB and intersection is 0, so do not bother about intersection, and this from here it is given as 1, so PA plus PB is 1. What you need to maximize here is PA into PB. This product you need to maximize. So what will I do here? I'll just write down. So let's say PA is X. Then what will be PB? PB will be using this 1 minus X. So what will I say? That this value is nothing but equal to X into 1 minus X. And let's say it is a function of X. So what I have done, I needed to maximize PA and PB. Okay, PA and PB's product. So what I did, I found a relationship between PA and PB using the conditions, and then I just assume PA to be X, so that what happens here is that this equation turns out to be a equation in just one variable, and now I use the concept of maxima and minima. I will say that for the value to be maximum, the derivative will be equal to 0. So just differentiate this thing, you will get this as 1 minus 2x as 0, x is equal to half. X is half means what? PA is half, and simultaneously PB will be 1 minus half, which is again half. So the product value PA into PB is half into half, that is 4. So 1 by 4, that is 0.25 is your answer. Okay? Yes, most of you solved it. Very good. So let's move to the next question. Now this question is actually a question where you should laugh. So please attempt this question. This is a very funny question actually. Solve this question. So answer is actually 1 by 2, because if you toss any coin, any unbiased coin, it is mentioned unbiased. So it is not the case that on both of the cases there is head only. It is not the Sholay wala coin. Do you remember Sholay? So it is not that coin where on all the faces there is a head. It is a biased, unbiased coin. That means equal probabilities of occurrence of head also and tail also. Yes. So if in the 4 outcomes you are getting a head, will it imply that on next outcome also you will getting head? Obviously no. It's not the case. If you are tossing the coins 1000 times also, then also the probability of occurrence of head and tail will remain the same. It will not be affected by what has happened previously. Yes. So the answer is just half. It was just a statement that what is the probability of occurrence of a tail if you toss a coin. It's just as easy as that question. The data that is given to you, it's like redundant data that I have already told you, like in linear algebra also, that most of the time they will give you extra data so that you are getting confused and you will apply your mind and you will think about it and waste your time, and you will just get confused. While that is not required here, it's just a question that what is the probability of getting a tail on tossing a coin. That's it. Understood? So yes, as compared to the EE and EC paper, mechanical and civil guys get easier questions. So that is a fact that you can take in your mind, that we are doing some difficult questions. All those questions which are asked in engineering mathematics are not that much difficult. We have selected those questions which are a bit challenging so that you can learn from them. All the questions are not that much difficult. Especially for mechanical and civil guys, the paper is a bit easier from the paper they get in EC and EE section. Okay. So we are practicing, that's why I have taken all the mixed questions. So let's see this question now. Okay. So this question, a fair coin is tossed n times. The probability that the difference between the number of heads and tails is n by 3. Number of heads that you are getting and the number of tails you are getting in n times tossing the coin, that difference is n minus 3. You have to determine that probability. One trick to solve the question of aptitude and engineering mathematics, whenever the data is not exactly given, like in this case not exact amount of tosses have been given to you, what you can do is that just assume a particular value of n, so that the question becomes easier. You can assume any visible value of n to be your number of tosses, okay, and then you can find the difference and see in what times it is occurring and just match the options. Okay, so n minus 3 is the number of tosses that are required. Most of you have answered it correctly. Okay, so if you have not assumed any value for n also, then also you can do the question like this. You can take the respective cases. Okay, what is the respective cases? That let's say n is the number of tosses, sorry, n minus 3, not n is the number of tosses that has been done. So one of the case can be like this, that all the tosses result in head and the number of tails will be 0. Similarly, the one of the case can be that n minus 1 tosses are heads and 1 is tail. Second case can be like this, n minus 2 tosses are getting heads while the remaining 2 tosses can be getting tail. So on it will continue up to there are 0 heads and tails. You can easily frame this table like this, and now you can see the difference between the number of heads and the number of tails. Here it is n minus 0, that is n. Here it is n minus 1 minus 1, that is n minus 2. Here it is n minus 2 minus 2, that is n minus 4. And here it is 0 minus n, that is minus n, and so on. Obviously, if you consider more cases like this, like here it is, let's say here it is n minus 1 and here it is 1. Again you will get the difference as n minus 1. Sorry, 1 minus n minus 1, that is what? Minus n. Sorry, 1 minus n minus 1. So it will become plus 1. So minus n plus 2. So you can see that there is no case where n minus 3 is occurring. Obviously, this will be an n minus 2, n minus 4, n minus 5, n minus 6, all those cases will occur, but never n minus 3 will occur, neither n minus 5 will occur, neither n minus 6 will occur. You can see from this table that n minus 3 is never occurring, means for this sample space we do not have any case favorable to the event where the difference is n minus 3. That's why the probability is 0. Okay, the difference can be negative also when the number of tails become greater than the number of heads. Yes or no? The difference is what? Difference between the number of heads and the number of tails. If you are taking n to be 2, there will be a case where 2 tails occur, then the difference between the number of heads and the number of tails is negative. Yes or no? Difference can be negative, but it will never be n minus 3. What is n minus 3? 2 minus 3, that is minus 1. It will never be minus 1. It is minus 2 but not minus 1. Never. Similarly, if you take n equal to 3, then for 3 tosses you need the difference to be 0, which will never occur. Okay. So this is how we will solve this question. Actually it was correct, but this difference can be negative but not be equal to minus 1. See the question given on the board. I'll read the question. P and Q are considering to apply for a job. The probability that P applies for the job is 1 by 4. The probability that P applies for the job given that Q applies for the job is half. Now what do you mean by the term given? Given that. What do you mean by the term given that? And the probability that Q applies for the job given that P applies is 1 by 3. P does not apply that, given that Q does not apply. So it's actually an easy question, just complicated by words. this given that term implies that some condition is given to you, and whenever the condition is imposed on a particular event, then that becomes the case of conditional probability. Like we have seen in the last class when I said that the probability of winning of the Indian team becomes higher when the condition imposes that Dhoni is in the squad. Yes, so similar to that. So please read the question again. Try to find out some numeric values in the mathematical format. I think you may be able to understand from there. If not, then I'm here. So I have taken n to be the number of tosses. So one of the case can be like this, that all the results are head and 0 are tails. Then the difference will give you n. Other case will be like this, that n minus 1 are head and 1 is tail, then n minus 2, and so on. This table can be formulated. Now you can see that the difference is never coming out to be n minus 3. Difference is never coming out to be n minus 3 means the probability which you have been asked, there is no case favorable to that required condition. So no case favorable, so 0 is the answer. It's an impossible event. Okay. Now, I have just taken the example of number of tosses to be 3. Now, you will have to find out when the difference becomes 0, because n minus 3 then becomes 3. So, it may be the case that all of them are head and this is 0, or it may be the case that 2 of them are head and this is 1, or it may be the case that this is 1 and this is 2, or it may be the case that this is 0 and this is 3. If you find the difference, then difference coming out here is 3. Difference coming out here is 1, here it is minus 1 and here it is minus 3. The difference you can see it is never coming out to be 0. That's why I said that this is not a favorable case. That's why the answer is 0. Okay. So coming to this question, let's try to write down what is given in the question. So first thing that is given, the probability that P applies for the job is 1 by 4. So it's a very direct statement. Probability of P applying is 1 by 4. So if I write P as the event of applying of P, so it is given as 1 by 4. One equation that is given to you. Okay, then the question is saying the probability that P applies for the job, given that Q applies for the job, is 1 by 2. Given that implies that there is a condition given. And what is the given condition? We have seen that the given condition is written on this side of this slash. So given condition is that Q applies, then the probability of P applying. Okay, given condition Q applies, then the probability of P applying is half. So this value is given as half. And then there is a second probability given, that the probability that Q applies for the job. Now again, given that terms implies that there is a condition imposed. Now this statement can be written down like this, that this value is given as 1 by 3. Okay. Were you able to write these three? Now what is the required probability? Required probability is that the probability that P does not apply, given that again conditional probability is asked, that Q does not apply. So conditional probability, but what is the given condition? That Q does not apply. So this side and P does not apply. This has been asked. Got it? So now it's just the task of finding out or manipulating the given conditions to get to this point. Okay, first of all we can say so that this value is equal to what? Probability of P complement intersection Q complement divided by probability of Q complement. Yes, conditional probability basic formula. From that we can come to this point, that this will be the value given over here. Now, if I say, let's draw this Venn diagram. If I say, okay, this is the, what is this probability? What will be this probability? What region will be this probability if I look at? So it will be the region common to the P complement and Q complement. Yes, it will be the region common to P complement and Q complement. If this is your set P, then what is P complement? P complement is this area which is outside P. Yes, this is the red hatched line denotes the area which is the P complement. And now if I look for Q complement, if this is Q, I am denoting by blue, then what is Q complement? Q complement will be the area outside Q. So area outside Q like this. Now if you want to take their intersections, intersection of what? Intersection of P complement and Q complement, then intersection means that area which is common to both the P complement and Q complement. Basically it will be in what area? Which is double hatched. The area which is double hatched will be nothing but your this P complement, Q complement. Are you able to understand? Are you able to understand? Yes, it will be the area which is double hatched because intersection means that area which is common to both. So you know that double hatched area is the area except this area. Area except this area. Yes, and this area you know that it is nothing but the union of P and Q. So basically I can write this is nothing but P union Q. If you remember your childhood memories, in childhood you must have studied something known as De Moivre's theorem. If you remember that theorem also, then you can easily able to understand that this will be equal to this. Okay, yes, Vibhuti, that is also correct. But those of you who doesn't remember, for them I drew this diagram. Okay, now the task is to determine these two probabilities. Okay, now let's look at what have been given to you. So probability of P is given, P by Q is given, Q by P is given. Okay, one thing is that we need PQ complement also. So if I use this relation, I can see that it is P intersection Q divided by PP, and PP is given to you 1 by 4. So from here you can calculate P intersection Q is 1 by 3 into 1 by 4. Just focus on board for once. Do not write along with me if you haven't understood, because it will become complicated after some time. Okay. So what I have done, I have just first of all written down this in this way, and then through the diagram I formulated that this is nothing but the 1 minus union of P and Q. And then I use this condition to get P of P intersection Q. Why I did this? Because I need PQ also, PQ bar also, and P plus Q also. Okay. So if I again use this condition, I can write this is nothing but P intersection Q again, but divided by PQ. And from here you can solve for PQ. PQ will be equal to P intersection Q divided by this value, that is half. So from here this was 1 by 12, this was 1 by 2, so it is 1 by 6. So we have got two things here. PQ is 1 by 6, P of P intersection Q is 1 by 12. Okay. Now if PQ is 1 by 6, you can directly say what will be PQ bar? It will be 1 minus 1 by 6. That's what the probability of complement is. Okay. Now can you find out union of P and Q? So obviously you can find out by using the law of addition. So law of addition, using that I am writing down this as PP plus PQ minus P intersection Q. Okay, writing down here. So PP is given 1 by 4. PQ you have calculated 1 by 6. And P intersection Q was 1 by 12. Divided by 1 minus 1 by 6, 5 by 6. Solve this. Let's solve this. So 1 by 2, let's take common. So 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 minus 1 by 6 divided by 5 by 6. So 1 by 2 plus 1 by 3 is 5 by 6 minus 1 by 6, that is 4 by 6. Okay, removing this diagram. So 1 minus this 2 and this cancelled, so it will become 1 minus 5 by 3. Okay, and 5 by 6 minus 1 by 6. 4 by 6, 2 by 3 divided by 5 by 3, that is 1 minus 2 by 5. Answer is 3 by 5. How I am getting 3 by 5? Answer is 4 by 5. Okay, I have done some calculation mistake, I guess. Okay, check for the calculation mistakes, if any. 2 by 3, 5 by 3, 2 by 5, 3 by 5. Can you see any calculation mistake? Okay, whole over 5 by 6 is there. Okay, understood the mistake. So this will be half and this will be 5 by 6. So half into 4 by 6 will give you 1 minus 2 by 3, 1 by 3. So 3 minus 1, 2 by 3, 5 by 6. Again I am getting the same thing. 4 by 3. Okay, 2 is here. So 1 by 3. Okay, so finally we got it. Written was 1 by 6 because I have taken 1 by 2 as common. Okay, I think you got the question. I'll repeat it again. So these three values were given to you. We needed this value. So we said that it is equal to P complement intersection Q complement divided by Q complement. Now P intersection Q complement, using the de Morgan's theorem, you can write it like this: 1 minus P of P union Q. Okay, and divide by PQ bar. Using the above conditions, we formulated the value of PQ and P intersection Q so that we were able to solve to that get this question. Yes, taking the break now, and after the break we will be discussing important part. So sometimes the solving by diagram is easier, sometimes solving by formula is easier. This is a kind of question when if you solve by this the rest people can take the break. I'll discuss everything about after the break now. So I've said what is P bar. P bar will be all the area except this circle of P. All the area except the P circle will be your P bar. And then if I denote Q bar by blue, then Q bar will be all the area except the circle of Q. So if I denote Q bar, then this will be yes. Now if you want to find out what is the value of the intersections of these two parts, then intersection means all those elements which belong to both P bar and Q bar. That means what? All the area where there is double hatched line, means red line is also there and blue line is also there. So if you focus in this diagram, you will find out that the double hatched region is all the area beyond this black area. Beyond this black area, all area is the double hatched region. And if I ask you what is this black area, then you can say it is nothing but probability of union of Q, and all this area except union Q is nothing but 1 minus P union Q. So please, before coming to the class after the break, just revise this question once again. If any doubt comes, then we can discuss it again. This was a good question, very complicated one, but yet very good one. Okay, so let's discuss everything about the break, after the break.